Chapter 484 to 485. While rereading the scroll of Chimera Jutsu, sometimes Orochimaru would frown in confusion. Sometimes he would sneer in disdain. Sometimes the corners of his lips will arch in a smile, and other times he would lick his lips in excitement. With his experience, he was able to easily judge many hidden dangers of Chimera Jutsu developed by Hiriko. In fact, he could even analyze 2 to 3 of these hidden dangers and the alternative paths to remove them. Overall, even if it is Orochimaru, he couldn't deny that Chimera Jutsu really has incredible potential. It is truly a forbidden jutsu that can change a shinobi's essence. After all, no matter the identity, background, and past of a person, once 5 or more Kekkei Genkai are absorbed and integrated into the body, there will be a tremendous increase in strength. Surpassing the level of a Kage would be fairly easy. Hiriko himself is one of the best examples. Before his Kekkei Genkai absorption ritual, Hiriko's strength at best reached the level of a high-level Chunin or low-level Jonin. He was such a humble character that Orochimaru never truly bothered to look at him seriously and never considered Hiriko on the same level as himself. But after Hiriko's Kekkei Genkai absorption ritual was completed, and he acquired 5 Kekkei Genkai, Orochimaru had to pay the price of his arrogance and was easily subdued by Hiriko's newly acquired Sharingan's Genjutsu when fighting against him. It wouldn't even be wrong to say that Orochimaru might have truly died at the hands of Hiriko, if not for the fact that Uchiha Tsukihei saved him. However, the experience of being easily subdued by Hiriko and Uchiha Itachi's Genjutsu made Orochimaru faintly aware of the flaws of his living corpse reincarnation. He now understands that because of having used this forbidden jutsu several times, his spiritual body has started to have defects in it, and has weakened quite a lot, because quite a lot of his mental energy is consumed in keeping the souls of his victims trapped lest they emerge themselves. Although this jutsu makes him pseudo-immortal unless he dies, the result of these flaws is that his resistance to Genjutsu has decreased. This is also the reason why Orochimaru's obsession with Sharingan and acquiring a perfect Uchiha body has started to increase over the years. He wants to get rid of this weakness of his by acquiring the Sharingan, which represents In. Of course, Sharingan also has many other good abilities, which would ultimately help him in his pursuit of mastering all jutsu, but Orochimaru has never been able to get his hands on the Sharingan. Whoever Orochimaru chooses as his target tends to surpass his expectations, and even before he is able to make his move on them, they already become people beyond his reach. Although he is helpless, Orochimaru has never given up on his intentions of acquiring the Sharingan, but after the recent defeat at the hands of Fujin, Orochimaru has started to ponder whether he should follow the same approach as Hiriko and Fujin and absorb several Kekkei Genkai. Of course, Sharingan is a must, and Orochimaru has already selected Uchiha Sasuke as his target for the Sharingan. For other options, Orochimaru has a lot of options to choose from, like Kimimara's Shikatsumiyaku, Haku's Ice Release, Yugo's unique Kekkei Genkai that allows him to absorb natural energy, Guren's Crystal Release, Yamato/Tenzo's Wood Release. Of course, there are many other options he could choose from, but first, these hidden dangers of Chimera Jutsu must be eliminated, muttered Orochimaru with a contemplative look. Just like Fujin warned Shimura Danzo, the Chimera Bud is indeed impeccable when it comes to fusing the flesh and blood of multiple people. However, it is ultimately a double-edged sword. If it is capable of devouring other people's flesh and blood into the user, then it is also capable of swallowing the user itself. So controlling Chimera Buds is a very difficult and burdensome task. Perhaps even more difficult and burdensome than maintaining Sharingan is for a non-Uchiha. Orochimaru, who is proficient in the human body transformation, knows better than anyone that once a Chimera Bud implanted in the body goes out of control, it will not only pollute the body, but also cause severe damage to the spirit. Orochimaru may not care much about his physical body because of his mastery of living corpse reincarnation and the technique of physical regeneration, but even he dares not ignore the damage to the soul body, which is why although he is very greedy to acquire several Kekkei Genkais similar to Hiriko and Fujin, he still can't make up his mind. Thinking of how to eliminate the hidden dangers of Chimera Jutsu, a light bulb suddenly lit in Orochimaru's mind. Since his route was officially disbanded, Danzo has become almost blinded to seize the position of Hokage from Sarutobi-sensei. With how desperate he has become recently, he won't be able to bear the temptations and would immediately start research on the Chimera Jutsu. Maybe I can use him to collect more data on Chimera Jutsu in order to further improve it. At the shrine, the moonlight fell on Futon's face from the holes in the roof. In the ruins of this ancient shrine that was once dedicated to the worship of the Nakomata sisters, Futon sat, cross-legged with his eyelids closed. He was carefully perceiving the condition of this clone body, and after quite a thorough observation, he did find serious inflammation and decay in the muscles around his spinal cord. Understanding how serious the condition is, Futon sighed in distress. He never thought that one day he would feel distressed because the result he achieves was too good, but this kind of absurd situation is right in front of him. This clone body is just too good that is likely to degrade early. Although he has only experienced one fierce combat while using this clone, Futen can clearly feel that the body and soul synchronization with this clone is really perfect as he thought earlier. It almost feels as if he is controlling his main body. No, in fact, it feels even better. It's almost as if this clone body is his main body, and the main body is just a Yin Chakra nature clone. But how can everything go well? This clone is indeed very good, so good, that it is in danger of decay because of its own high quality. It feels absurd and unbelievable. But it is an undeniable truth, and this is also the reason why the outbreak of the so-called disease he is suffering from is also much more violent than he expected. Even without carrying out a blood test, Futen can judge that at this time the concentration of toxin in his blood must have far exceeded even Kimamaro's levels. In the future, I cannot use Shikatsumiyaku, absolutely not. Else this clone body would decay before I can carry out Project Godhood, muttered Futen. With the current development of medical ninjutsu, it is absolutely impossible to cure the curse of the Kagaya clan. So preventing the decay is also absolutely impossible. Therefore, he can only choose methods that would decrease the speed of decay, so that Futen at least has the chance to absorb this clone while carrying out absorption ritual. After making up his mind, Futen sighed and stood up. This Nikomata-dedicated shrine is very big. Although it is ruined and destroyed because of being uncared for the past few centuries, Futen is still amazed just how big this shrine is. Of course, he has searched it thoroughly, and nothing except for that secret tomb that is protected by extremely hard, unbreakable rocks is worth exploring here. Perhaps because it was abandoned centuries ago, therefore, not much information can be found here. So Futen is left completely helpless. And that's still not the biggest issue. The biggest issue is that even after searching and waiting for so long, Futen has found no clue about Itachi and Shursue's situation. Their whereabouts are completely unknown, which has made Futen strengthen his belief that both of them are more than likely undergoing some kind of trial. Futen is not much worried about their safety, because when they are together, they wouldn't die. Futen still has this confidence in them. Not to mention, Itachi and Shursue's crow clone are still present in Konoha. As long as Itachi and Shursue don't die, those crow clones will not disappear. And with nothing left to do here, Futen decided to return back to Konoha. Because of his ability to fly with the help of magnet release, Futen arrived back in the village. Within a single day, changed back into his main body, and dispelled the shadow clone he had left behind to gain all the experience that the shadow clone experienced. Now with him back in the village, Kuroto instructed Itachi and Shursue's crow clone to keep trying to contact their main bodies, while he himself studied magnet release and scorch release and also waited for the return of Kurenai. Is she trying to intentionally hide information about Fujin/Futen? Thought Kuroto, and decided to ask tentatively, which member of Amatsukami did you encounter? Did you manage to see any detail that would help us determine the identity of that member? As soon as Kuroto asked this question, Kurenai's heart stopped for a moment. Immediately her heart rate increased rapidly. And although she was trying very hard, Kuroto with the help of his Byakugan still noticed some things. So he couldn't help but think, is she nervous? Kurenai lowered her head and said, I am sorry, Captain. Because I was poisoned by Orochimaru, therefore, I couldn't do anything against him or Orochimaru, and was unable to catch any detail that would help us determine his true identity. But I did see that he was wearing a green-colored wind pattern mask, and also had the symbol of wind chakra nature on the chest part of his Amatsukami cloak. What the hell? She literally saw my face. So why not tell? Kuroto was so shocked by Kurenai's words that his heart stopped for a moment, but he instantly regained his composure and thought, I need to understand what exactly is she planning. Immediately Kuroto questioned again. And what abilities did he use? Kurenai's heartbeat increased again, but after quickly calming herself, she said in a low voice, he was quite proficient in taijutsu, good enough to match Shodame Hokage-sama and Naidame Hokage-sama, but as far as I was able to see, he mostly controlled Iron Sand using magnet release to combat Shodame Hokage-sama and Naidame Hokage-sama. Kuroto was no longer sure what was going on with Kurenai and sighed tentatively. Sigh, he is strong enough to match even Shodame Hokage-sama with his wood release, Naidame Hokage-sama with his water release, flying Raijin, and all those self-created jutsu, and even Orochimaru with his strange snake jutsu, all at the same time. And that too with just taijutsu and magnet release? It's really unbelievable. Kurenai nodded. Yes, Captain, I was also incredibly shocked. It is inconceivable that someone with just taijutsu and magnet release could match up against Shodame Hokage-sama, Naidame Hokage-sama, and Orochimaru, one of the legendary Sannin. At the same time, Kurenai thought to herself, I am not hiding information from the captain because I want to protect that shameless guy from the Hyuga clan and the village. No, that's the last thing I would do. In fact, I would much rather die than waste my efforts trying to protect that pervert. I just don't want the Hyuga clan to have any conflict with the village and affect the stability of the village because of Futen's existence. Yes, I am not trying to protect Futen, definitely not. Although Kurenai thought so, however, the devil and angel version of Chibi Kurenai, floating on both sides of her ears, clearly didn't believe in her rhetorical thoughts at all. Admit it, Kurenai-chan. All three of us know the real reason why you lied to the captain. Devil Kurenai said in a teasing tone. That's right, that's right. One must never lie to themselves, Kurenai-chan. Didn't Okasan say so? Angel Kurenai said with a gentle tone. You two, one more word and I will be your worst nightmare, said Kurenai in a very dark tone. Eep. Devil and Angel Kurenai were so scared that they dare not come forward again. After dealing with the devil and angel chibi forms of her, Kurenai took a deep breath, raised her head to meet Kuroto's gaze, and asked, Captain, that's all I know, and I have already told everything I can. Are there any other questions? Kuroto had a thoughtful look on his face and nodded. What was the result of the battle between Orochimaru and the member of Amatsukami? Did either of the two die? As I mentioned previously, I escaped while Orochimaru and the member of Amatsukami were fighting. So, I am not sure what was the exact result of their battle, answered Kurenai. That is to say, the exact result of the battle is unknown, muttered Kuroto absent-mindedly. Kurenai nodded and said with a saddened expression, I am sorry for disappointing you, Captain. If only I was better, maybe I could have. If I didn't know the truth, I would have really believed that she is telling the truth, thought Kuroto as he looked at Kurenai's regretful expression. Knock knock. At this time, there was a knock on the door, following which Hiate's voice came from outside the door. Captain, Itachi has brought Kurenai-senpai's medical report. Kuroto broke out from his thoughtful expression and said, Let him in. Following Kuroto's words, Hayate, who was standing outside, opened the door and allowed Itachi to come in. Itachi walked in and said, Here is Kurenai-san's medical report, Captain. Kuroto nodded and took it from Itachi's hands and flipped through the pages, all while keeping the note of Kurenai's heart rate, which has increased slightly because of nervousness. Kuroto chose to ignore it and just flipped through the pages of Kurenai's medical report. Since most of Kurenai's injuries were healed by him, so anything related to fractures and snakes present inside her body is not mentioned in the report. The only important points included a deep, but not life-threatening shoulder wound that reached up to her breast, a lack of blood in her body due to blood loss, and slight traces of an unknown poison in her blood. Poisoning is already cured by simple detoxification. Blood will be transfused to her within 24 hours, and her shoulder injury has already been treated by Shizune. Aside from this, she is only suffering from physical and mental exhaustion, for which 1 week of rest is more than enough. After reading everything, Kuroto passed the medical report to Kurenai and said, Here is your medical report. There are no life-threatening injuries, thankfully. Additionally, you have been given a 1-week holiday to rest and recuperate. And do remember that tomorrow you will be meeting Hokage-sama, so be prepared with your report. Make sure to include a map highlighting the route you took to return back to Konoha in your report. We need to investigate Orochimaru's purpose in kidnapping you, and the reason he had a conflict with the member of Amatsukami. Kurenai froze slightly upon hearing the map, but immediately nodded, Yes, sir. At the same time, she can't help but think, Thank goodness I took 1 whole week and considered this issue, otherwise, it would have been really bad. Kuroto nodded and said, All right, that will be all. Go back and rest. Kurenai nodded, then stood up and bowed to Kuroto. In that case, I will be taking my leave, Captain. Kuroto nodded absent-mindedly. Do not miss the appointment for a blood transfusion. Kurenai nodded and started walking towards the door with a relieved look. She may have lied to Kuroto with a calm and straight face, but only she herself knows just how much pressure she was under while answering each of Kuroto's questions to not give out any detail about Futen. And the pressure is also reasonable, after all. What she has done now is an act of betrayal. Never in her dreams did Kurenai think that one day she would do something akin to betraying the village. She is not sure why she goes so far. Perhaps it's because I want to have something in common with Futen, were her thoughts as she opened the door. Kurenai no. Kurenai-chan. Just when she was about to step out of the room, suddenly she heard Kuroto calling her name, which caused her to stiffen a little. Did Captain notice something? But she immediately calmed down because she heard Kuroto using the suffix, chan. Kuroto only uses chan when talking to her as a friend and not as captain of Team Ro. Therefore, Kurenai understood that he wants to say something as a friend and asked, Is something the matter, Kuroto-kun? I apologize for what Orochimaru made you go through, said Kuroto in an apologetic tone. Kurenai turned around and shook her head with a smile. You need not apologize for Orochimaru's actions. After a pause, she continued, He is a criminal and completely different from you. So please don't beat yourself up over something that Orochimaru did. His actions have nothing to do with you. At the same time, she had some thoughts in her mind that she would like to keep to herself. I am grateful for your understanding, Kurenai-chan, said Kuroto with a grateful tone. Kurenai just smiled and said, If there's nothing more, I will take my leave. Kuroto nodded and did not stop her anymore. With that, Kurenai stepped out of the room and left. Looking at the spot Kurenai just stood at, Kuroto rubbed his chin with a thoughtful expression. Something is definitely going on in her mind. Initially, Kuroto had prepared to control Kurenai into reporting the information he doesn't mind getting leaked, but Kurenai's behavior was completely different. Not only did she hide the information about the Nakomata shrine, but she did not report anything about Futen either. This is strange, and Kuroto would be an idiot if didn't feel that something is wrong with Kurenai. With Kurenai gone, Hate, who had been guarding the door, walked in. Hyuga, who had witnessed the entire interrogation process, said with a frown, "Captain, I feel that something is wrong with Kurenai-senpai." Hate said, "It's normal to be a bit depressed after going through what Kurenai-senpai went through." Hyuga shook her head and said, "No, rather than depression. I would say that she is worried about something." Hate shook his head and said, "Really? She didn't look all that worried to me. I would say she is annoyed and frustrated. Considering her experience, it is normal. After all, one party is Orochimaru, one of the legendary Sannin, while the other is a member of Amatsukami, who is said to be stronger than Homasubi and Suijin. Maybe." Hyuga couldn't refute Hayate's argument, so could only think to herself, "But my instincts as a woman are telling me that she is worried. I should talk to her privately. Maybe she will feel more comfortable talking with me." Kuroto ignored the lovebirds' daily banter and instructed Itachi's crow clone, "Keep a watch over her." "Yes, Kuroto-san." Itachi's crow clone nodded and disappeared from the room. Just as Itachi disappeared from the room, there was a sudden rush of footsteps in the corridor outside, and immediately afterward, a large group of people opened the door and walked in. The one at the forefront was none other than Sarutobi Asuma, who has been busy searching for the whereabouts of Kurenai for the past few days. Just from his haggard, unshaven face, dark circles, and eye bags, it is not difficult to judge just how worried he was about Kurenai. Following him are most of the contemporaries of the same generation, including Hatake Kakashi, Might Guy, Marino Ibiki, Mitarashi Anko, Iwabi Umemiya, Ebisu, and a few more. Translators note Iwabi Umemiya, not the real name, is the third member of Team Orochimaru, alongside Hyuga Kuroto and Mitarashi Anko. His current shinobi rank is Jonin. As soon as he entered the room, Asuma looked around and didn't find any trace of Kurenai. With a frown, he turned towards Kuroto and asked, "Where is Kurenai?" Kuroto replied, "She has gone home to take a rest." Asuma nodded, then asked with a nervous expression, "Is she okay?" Following Asuma's question, everyone looked at Kuroto, waiting for his answer. When Asuma heard of Kurenai's kidnapping, he barged into Sandame's office and asked his father to put the village under martial law. At the same time, asked him to issue a compulsory mission to all the capable shinobi in the village to search for the missing Kurenai. What Sandame did in response is not hard to guess. He directly refused Asuma, without even batting an eye. Although Asuma's mood was sore, finding Kurenai and ensuring her safety was more important. So Asuma had to turn towards his friends and other contemporaries to help him search Kurenai's whereabouts. Apparently, Sandame didn't stop this approach of Asuma. Or to be more exact, he didn't have the opportunity to stop, as he was busy in an extremely secret meeting with the Yonde Mizukage, who had just arrived in the village. The exact contents of the meeting are a secret, but it was obviously related to the Akatsuki organization and the Amatsukami organization. This is why Asuma got away with using such an exaggerated team of shinobi just for searching Kurenai's whereabouts. The strength of this team can be imagined, as everyone is either a Jonin or Tokubetsu Jonin. Therefore, for the past few days, everyone in this room, including Hyuga Kuroto's shadow clone that was left behind in the village, was searching for Kurenai's whereabouts, and actually made a lot of effort but couldn't find anything. Everyone started to think that her disappearance was perhaps related to Akatsuki or Amatsukami, which only made the matter more serious and made Asuma depressed. Asuma was so depressed that he almost barged into his old man's office to ask him to declare war on both Akatsuki organization and Amatsukami organization. But before he could, Kakashi suddenly appeared in front of him with flying Raijin and stopped him. Asuma obviously had no intention to stop, however, when Kakashi showed Kuroto's letter to Asuma. Asuma no longer cared about war and all, just rushed towards the Konoha hospital to make sure that Kurenai is safe. But now he learned that Kurenai has returned home to rest, so obviously he can only turn to Kuroto and ask about her condition. Kuroto patted Asuma's shoulder and said with a smile, "Don't worry, her injuries are not life-threatening and have already been treated by Shizen-chan. Only physical and mental exhaustion is left, which is nothing too serious. She just needs to rest for a few days and she will be back to normal." Hearing from Kuroto, Asuma suddenly took a long sigh of relief. Thankfully she is safe. Then after a short pause, Asuma suddenly asked Kuroto, "By the way, which bastard dared kidnapping Kurenai?" Kuroto looked up and down at Asuma for a minute. Then after thinking a little he said to Yugao, "Yugao, pass the report to Asuma." Yugao asked in surprise, "Captain?" Kuroto nodded. "It's all right." Following Kuroto's nod, Yugao no longer hesitated and passed the report to Asuma. Originally, the details of Kurenai's kidnapping should be kept a secret unless Sandame states otherwise. But who made Asuma the son of Hokage? Moreover, all the people in this room are either Jonin or Tokubetsu Jonin, which means all the people in this room make up the high-end combat power of Konoha. Not to mention, they are all contemporaries of the same generation, and Kuroto, who already understands the ins and outs of the matter, knows full well that there is no information in this report worth keeping secret, so he decided to let them in on the matter. Although, Kuroto did not expect to see Iwabi Umemiya in this group. He didn't care much. Kuroto knows that Yumimiya is loyal to Orochimaru, but it makes no difference to him. In Kuroto's view, Yumimiya could still be considered a good friend and comrade, because he, Anko, and Kuroto have together fought against many enemies as members of Team Orochimaru before and during the Third Great Shinobi War. After everyone read the report one by one, they looked at each other in confusion. Asuma was the first to speak, and his tone clearly indicated his surprise. Orochimaru? How could it be him? Why did he, of all people, kidnap Kurenai? What did he even want from her? Because Kurenai managed to safely escape from the hands of her kidnapper, it must mean that the kidnapper was neither Akatsuki nor Amatsukami. So Asuma was obviously inflated. He wanted to catch the kidnapper and present him in front of Kurenai to impress her and win her heart. Then, according to the script in the book he has read, he would invite her to go on a date. Obviously, she would agree, and they would soon start dating. If this setting is followed, soon Asuma and Kurenai would be lovers, and then married officially within a few more years. They will also have a mini Asuma and mini Kurenai playing catch in the yard with their cousin brother Konohamaru. Mini Asuma and mini Kurenai would be naughty kids and constantly torment their grandfather by pulling his beard. Asuma's wife Kurenai would hum a beautiful melody as she cooks for their small family, and he will listen to that beautiful melody while reading the morning newspaper, smoking a cigarette, and occasionally thinking to himself, "Ah, this is the life." But Asuma didn't expect that his "this is life" dream was a low-quality cheap balloon and had a hole in it. Even before he could blow air in it, it exploded and brought him to reality. Kurenai's kidnapper turned out to be Orochimaru. And who is Orochimaru? No one needs to emphasize. According to Asuma, let alone him, even Hatake Kakashi and Hyuga Kuroto, the two strongest of their generation, wouldn't be sure of defeating Orochimaru. Heck, let alone those two. Even his father Sandaime Hokage dares not say with certainty that he can defeat or kill Orochimaru without losing his life. Although angered and helpless, Asuma had to accept the fact that he can't use this method to win Kurenai's heart, so he could only sigh. Different from Asuma's helplessness, Anko's face darkened at the mention of Orochimaru being the culprit of Kurenai's kidnapping. Even though she has followed Kuroto's advice, walked out of Orochimaru's shadow, and no longer cares about him, Orochimaru is still the person she doesn't want to face. And different from Asuma and Anko, Kakashi's attention was completely on Amatsukami, as he muttered to himself in a wondering tone. Why did a member of Amatsukami have a conflict with Orochimaru? Is it because Orochimaru is a former member of the Akatsuki organization? Others all had their own thoughts, pondering and expressing their own opinions, such that the room became a bit noisy. Seeing this, Kuroto took back the report, passed it to Yugao, and said to everyone, "Okay, everyone, we are still in Konoha Hospital, so please mind yourselves. We don't want to cause trouble and incur the wrath of Tsunade-sama, right?" As soon as the wrath of Tsunade-sama was mentioned, everyone immediately shut up and tacitly nodded. Only an idiot would want to incur Tsunade-sama's wrath. Kuroto was satisfied with the result and said, "We have been busy searching for Kurenai-chan for the past few days. Now that she has returned safely, so it's time we too go back to our houses and take a much-needed rest." Everyone nodded and started to disperse. Asuma suddenly said to everyone, "Tomorrow, I will host a party in order to celebrate Kurenai's safe return. Everyone must come," Guy said in a thinking pose. Speaking of which, it's been years since all of us got together. This time we must let the flames of our youth explode." Kakashi, who has become more and more depressed since the alliance ceremony incident, had a droopy look and shook his head weakly. "Forget it." Guy immediately said, "Kakashi, this is the age to dedicate our youth to a hot-blooded battle, and you are my eternal rival. I cannot allow you to act lazy like that." Before Kakashi could reply to Guy, Asuma tossed his arm around Kakashi's neck and said, "Hey, the trick you told me last time did not work. Shouldn't you take responsibility? Others may not come that would still be acceptable, but you are not allowed to not come." Asuma knows that a lot has been going on in Kakashi's mind, and it has made Kakashi become darker and darker, and has caused him to frequently visit Konoha Hospital to get his injuries treated. Tsunade-sama has repeatedly emphasized that Kakashi should not put so much pressure on himself while training, because rather than training he is causing self-harm. But no matter how much Tsunade-sama nags at him, there has been no change in Kakashi. This has caused, not only Hokage-sama, but even several friends to be deeply worried about Kakashi's state. Everyone understands that Obito's meant a lot to Kakashi, and losing it has caused too much emotional pressure on him. Guy wants to help but has been unable to, because whenever Guy would nag him, Kakashi would just disappear with flying Raijin. Helpless Guy turned to other friends. As a friend, Asuma can obviously see the state of Kakashi and wants to help him too. Seeing that both Guy and Asuma have already pressured him, Kakashi cast a hopeful gaze at Kuroto, only to be completely ignored by him. With no one left to help him, Kakashi could only nod helplessly. "All right, I'll come." Yash, now that everyone agrees, at 7 p.m. tomorrow everyone will gather at the secret tavern, where we wanted to celebrate our academy graduation, but couldn't because of being too young to drink, announced Asuma. Got it. Everyone nodded to Asuma, and then left to do their own things.